Hello, my name's Richard Dale. I live in Tooting in South London. I just thought I'd give you a bit of an overview of my experiences to date that relate to insomnia, anxiety, and potentially chronic fatigue syndrome. To share my experiences with other people who might have who can relate, and it helps them in their recovery. And to also ask for your advice if you've got any, and yeah, just to I thought that this would really help or potentially help me in my own recovery. So this is the first of a few videos that I'll probably add every day, every few days or weeks. Whenever I think I've got something relevant to post, I will do. But I just thought I'd give you a bit of a background on me first. So I'm 31-year-old. I'm from Leeds originally, and I had, I guess, sleep problems when I was living in Leeds 7 years ago, just past 7 years ago. And I gradually started to use. I basically I had a bad sleep hygiene routine. I'd go out on a Friday, Saturday night. I'd love my dance music, so I would go clubbing. Might not get home until, if I go out Saturday night, I might not go home until Sunday afternoon. So my whole sleep routine through the week was fucked. I think I got mildly addicted to energy drinks. I started drinking a Red Bull on a daily basis, and then I started taking over-the-counter sleeping pills, which in retrospect is a stupid idea, but that's what I did. I didn't realise that Red Bull would have such an effect on my sleep. Obviously that's ridiculous. It does. I would not recommend anyone takes energy drinks. I think they should really carry a public health warning, to be honest. But anyway, I lived on that until I moved down to London for my job. I was really excited to move to a marketing agency and work on some big campaigns. I didn't really know that many. I didn't really know that many people in London, so I moved into a flat share in Tooting. Lived with some really cool people, and some of those people are still really good friends now. Yeah, I moved into a job that was quite stressful, long hours. I didn't really get much of a lunch break, and I think that without realising it, that did put a lot of pressure on myself, gave me a lot of stress that I found difficult to manage. Then because of my sleep problems, they got worse as a result. So I got into a position where basically maybe after 2 or 3 years being there, I got to the point where I had the offer of being able to be taken out for lunch by a supplier, and I usually would turn these offers down because of my workload. But I thought, fuck it, I should be allowed to have a break. I should be allowed. So I did go. I did go out for lunch for, we're talking like an hour and a half max. I got back and I got a proper bollocking from my manager about not doing something that I should have done, and I kind of broke down at that point. I don't usually cry, but I did then, and I don't think it was I didn't think I looked particularly great that day. But yeah, as a result of that, had to take 2 weeks off work, and I think it was then trying to figure out how I can manage this. I thought at the time I should be able to deal with this stress. It isn't something about the work, it is something about me that I need to deal with. I need to get on top of this. So I thought I need to sort out the insomnia. So I saw a couple of therapists who took me through cognitive behavioural therapy. And the first one I saw, I basically just picked on a list and didn't really look into if they'd had experience of people with insomnia or not, but I went to them and they were helpful in some respects, but I didn't really gel with that person. So I did that for maybe 6 months and then stopped. And it wasn't for another year until I started that up again with another therapist that I found who I'd rung up some therapists, I'd spoken to them, and got a bit of an idea as to whether I would gel with them or not, and how experienced they were in insomnia. So they were better, and I think I was able to reassess some of those negative thoughts that I had in the past that were causing me sleep problems, and just be more realistic with my thoughts. And that took quite a while to really happen, but it did really help. That said, the job was still very stressful, and so I think it got to the point where you know, this isn't getting any better. I really wanted to get on top of this, but I think you've got to just acknowledge where things aren't working. So I decided to move jobs to a charity, and I'd worked there for a couple of years. And it was okay initially, but then again, because marketing as a discipline wasn't particularly well understood within that charity, the workload started ramping up to quite a high level, and I had all the same anxieties and stresses that came along with that, which pushed my sleep problems back into the fore. So within that period, I managed to get myself onto a CBTI course. So it's a specialist course for people with insomnia, a specialist cognitive behavioural therapy course for people with insomnia, and that was really practical group therapy about what you can do to improve your sleep. So it's things like, yes, it's the sleep hygiene stuff, but it's also sleep restriction. So it's just using your bed for sleep and nothing else. So you associate your bed with sleeping and not sleeping. So if you can't go to sleep after 15 minutes, get up, move rooms, do something else, read a book, listen to a podcast, ideally not watch TV or look at your phone. And that did really help me, and I did get to about 7 hours sleep, and I'd stopped taking pills, I stopped taking energy drinks a few years before that, so it started to get better in terms of sleep. But I still was getting these other symptoms that I didn't really know how to explain, but I would now class as head pressure, numbness and brain fog were really strong. I also had IBS and a few other symptoms, and I didn't necessarily relate them all to sleep, but I didn't really understand what was happening. The only thing I could put it down to is sleep. That was the only problem, the main problem that was obvious in my life. So I thought, even if I'm getting 7 hours sleep, it must mean that I need more sleep, or the quality that I'm getting needs to be better. So that has really carried on up until fairly recently. I had I should say that I had a sleep study in 2013, so 4 years ago, where they hooked me up to lots of different machines to see. I stayed overnight in hospital and to see if there was any issues, and basically I was fine. Even though anecdotally I did say to them I felt like shit the next day, on paper I was fine. So, move forward a couple of years, and I thought, well, I'm really hopeless here. Whilst my sleep is better, I'm still getting these really strong brain fog feelings. I can't articulate properly, I can't recall facts and figures, and it's just, I'm just not enjoying life. I'm just knackered all the time. So what is it? So I went back to my doctor, and he thought it might be sleep apnea. I couldn't recall at the time whether my sleep study had recorded that or not. So I was on a waiting list for that, which unfortunately was a 6-month waiting list. I tried getting that waiting list down by ringing up the hospital weekly to see if there's cancellations. I went back to my GP, who sent a letter to the hospital to try and bump me up the list, and none of that helped. So in that course of the time, I thought I basically convinced myself that I had sleep apnea, because I did snore. I did take, my girlfriend said that I did take big breaths every now and again. I do have quite a wide collar neck size. I have a 17-inch collar neck size, and that can be one of the things to look out for. So I basically convinced myself I might have sleep apnea. So because I was on this long waiting list, I bought myself a CPAP machine, which is the treatment for sleep apnea, and I read that it is safe to use if even if you don't have it, but it can even stop you snoring. So basically it's a machine that you have by the side of your bed. You have a face mask and a hose that connects the two together, and it makes sure that the pressure going through your mouth and down your throat is consistent all the time, so that there's no soft tissue closing up your windpipe, which is what happens with sleep apnea. So I started to use that, and basically almost instantly I started to feel better. Even though I woke up kind of 6-7 times during the night to start with, because it's weird wearing a face mask and that's quite disrupting, I was starting to think, I found what's wrong with me. This is amazing. And I started to use that, and I thought, well, you know, over time I won't wake up as much and it'll just get better. And then I'll have my sleep apnea test and they'll diagnose me, and then that'll be that. I'll have to wear the sleep mask, this face mask for the rest of my life, but fuck it. If I feel great again, I'll do that, easy. But then after maybe a couple of weeks that started wearing off, and I was kind of thinking, okay, this is a worry. And then I did have my sleep apnea test recently, where I was given an oximeter, which is basically a watch type device that you put over your wrist and you hook it up to the end of your finger, and it measures the amount of oxygen in your blood during the night. And that came back fine. So basically the respiratory doctor said basically you are fine. It is not a sleep problem. He thought it might be chronic fatigue syndrome. So he said that he would refer me on to a specialist, and I am waiting to hear back from the doctor in terms of when that appointment is. So I'm waiting to be added to a waiting list. So it's an ongoing process, and I've gone through so many different things that I've tried to improve both my sleep, my anxiety, and I've not found the solution yet. I found things that can help, and I'll go into a bit more about what things have helped me so far. But I just thought I'd give you a bit of an introduction as to who I am and the fucking 7 years of just slogging it, really, of pushing through, and hopefully one or two people, you know, some of you might be able to relate to that. So we'll catch up in a video, and I'll talk through a bit more about the symptoms that I've got, and we'll go from there. So yeah, nice to meet you all, and I'll speak soon. Bye bye.